Welcome to the Tits Up podcast with Coley Arnold, the unapologetic space for women in the thick of it. You know, the messy middle where you're too far in to quit, but the finish line feels like a mirage. Where the pressure is high, the stakes are real, and every win feels hard-earned. This isn't a highlight reel. This is the unfiltered truth about building a business, holding your life together, and finding your fire when it would be easier to burn it all down. If you're tired of fake perfection and ready for the real, raw conversations that make you feel seen and lit up, then grab your coffee, your courage, and let's do this. Shoulders back, head high, tits up, girlfriend.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Okay, Karen and I have been friends for a very long time. We won't say the number. We don't want to date ourselves. But I want to jump right in because you have so much just knowledge around marketing, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But I love just the watching you. You are a beautiful example of balancing life and work. And I kind of want to chat about that a little bit today.
Okay, great.
So we're going to dive in. So what does a normal day look like for you as a mom and a business owner? And does that even exist, like a normal day?
My days are divided. It's very important to me to have time with my children while they're still young. My oldest is 7. My youngest is 5.
They are the cutest.
And while my 5-year-old is starting in August, up to this point, I've always had one of them for part of the time. So I have been dedicated to childcare, but in a very part-time capacity, which means my work took a back seat. So I went from working full-time for maybe 15 years to working part-time so that I could be intentional with my time with the kids. And that's looked different over the years for sure. But in most recent time, that feels like I'm the first one up. That's not totally true. My 7-year-old wakes up at 5:30 a.m., which I refuse, hard boundary. But I do all of my mom things prior to getting myself ready and getting out of the door. I think to create more calm and less anxiety-ridden moments in that time, I've created better routine. I've started waking up even earlier than I really want to for the sake of slower mornings to keep everybody's nervous system calm. And then I jam as much as I can in on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays so that by the time I pick them up from school or daycare, I can be more present. So I don't believe in the word balance.
Yes.
I don't think it's possible or it exists. Many a phone call to you in the beginning, crying, feeling all of the mom guilt, unnamed. And then when I'm with them, I try my hardest to just be present and not working. And if that's not always possible, so it's a trade-off, and they get to have a movie in the middle of the afternoon sometimes.
Which they love.
It's
such a treat.
But it's part of the juggle, and I think that's okay.
And I love that. I love that word, juggle, because I that's the number one question I get asked all the time is like, how do you do it all with 4 kids and a business and a husband and friends, like friendships, which I do want to pour intentionality into. And I always say I don't balance it all well. Like you can ask any one of those categories at any given time and they would probably say they don't feel like they have enough of me. But it's like a juggle, right? And when you juggle, you're going to drop the things that maybe aren't the most important thing at that one moment, right? And you're going to focus on the ones that are right in front of you and try to be that present person wherever you are.
I remember in that first year after I had my son, it was my best year up to that point. And
in work.
Yeah. Because I think I was looking for anything to feel normal. So I fully poured myself into career because that felt really something that I was really comfortable with and I understood. And I think I felt so overwhelmed by parenthood that I was clinging to anything to feel kind of normal again. And you gave me a lot of freedom and power in saying, what you're modeling for him is that sometimes moms work too, and there's a lot of beauty and goodness in that too. And you're showing him a different version than maybe what I had, and also modeling how he can support that from young, which I think is really sweet. And it gives a grace lens of, sure, I'm not able to be fully present 100% of the time, but there's also different parts of me that need fueled. And so that's really important too.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, I remember having conversations with you and almost reminding myself at the same time, right? Because we constantly need that reminder of like, having our kids watch us chase our dreams gives them permission to chase theirs one day. And I think that's so important. And I think sometimes we do get lost in the like guilt and the shame of not being both at work all the time or with our kids, right? It's like when you're with the kids, you feel guilty that you're not at work. And when you're not at work or when you're at work, you feel guilty not being with the kids. And I think it's that cycle that we just have to constantly remind each other, which is why friendship is so important.
Well, because we can so easily remind our friends how wonderful they are and how great they're doing.
Right.
But then to ourselves, it's really defeating.
Yeah, we beat ourselves up.
I spoke with...
We're little assholes to ourselves.
That's true. I spoke to my first boss in career recently, and I was asking her a lot of questions. She was a single mom. I worked for her. I think I started working for her in 2005. And I asked, you know, she's in her probably mid to late 50s now. And I asked, do you ever look back and have regret about how much time you spent working? I mean, she was a workhorse. Still is, but wild. And she said, you know, I asked my son recently. I mean, he's grown now. He's engaged. And she said, I asked him recently, do you think that it impacted you, or do you look back with any resentment?
Right.
Is there anything that you... And he goes, what are you talking about, Mom? He's like, I got to be around you in your workspace, and I also learned so much from you, and you were such an example to me. And I think it's that we don't get that yet because our children are still at a different stage in their life. But I think in hindsight and looking back with perspective, I think there's parts of them that will really appreciate it.
So true. I think that's so true. I remember when we were building the vintage Arcadia, and our kids were just like, Booker was there every single day with me. Yeah. And we would go for 5 or 6 hours and plan stuff and walk through the construction. And he was just, he just loved it. He loved it. And he felt like he was part of something bigger than him. So it was pretty special. Are you building a business that might look good on paper but still feels lonely, messy, or unclear behind the scenes? You don't have to figure it all out alone. The Foundress is a community for female founders who are ready to scale with clarity, connection, and purpose. Whether you're making your first 6 figures or scaling towards 7, we're the place where your ambition is seen, your ideas are sharpened, and your success is celebrated. Inside, you'll find strategy, deep support, and a powerful circle of women who get it. Because at Foundress, we don't just network, we grow together. If you're craving more than just another business group, if you're ready for mentorship, momentum, and women who speak your language, come join us. Your seat at the table is waiting. Head to foundress.co to learn more. And I want to talk to you because we had a really great conversation.
I just never know what you're going to say next.
Are you nervous?
We had a really, and I'm like, oh God.
I make her nervous a little bit.
Which time?
Okay, so talking about the juggle, right? And I remember, I'm hoping that I'm just okay to share this, but we're going to get real deep here. But we had a moment, and I went to go visit you in Colorado, and you were just feeling so stuck, and you were frustrated, and you're like, I'm only making this much money, and I'm just frustrated. I feel like I should be further along, right? And it really just resonated with me because I was like, how many times do we say that to ourselves? Like, I should be further along, or I should be doing something else, or my life should look different. And we had a moment, and I just remember sitting there with you and feeling like, oh, I've felt that so deeply before. And I had someone kind of step in and help me. And so you and I got to walk through that and talk about like your priorities right now are your kids, which is a beautiful priority. And so your view of success, though, that you were holding on to was of a single working woman. And that shift, like, I want you to talk about that shift a little bit. And like, what are you crying?
I would never cry. Also,
I love you.
I just
allergies. A little tears. Okay.
I just have some vulnerabilities coming through my eyelids. Thank you.
I love you. But this is such an important conversation because I know, like, I felt that, you felt that, like, we are not alone in that feeling where sometimes we have to shift our own expectations of what success looks like.
Yeah, I think it's the topic of worth, which is vulnerable and emotional. That conversation also was probably anchored deeply in me prior to our conversation, but it actually came up. I blame you because you also one morning, the prelude to that was I was literally walking in to get my coffee and get my day started. And you were like, I just have a few questions. I need to ask these for some homework, probably for what you're talking about you were going through. like, how much are you earning and how much are you working and what do your days look like? And I think I went into this space of, I haven't really, I don't share any of this information with anyone, really, not even my husband, except for at tax meeting. And so
surprise, how much I made.
And so I think when you asked me that, I did feel embarrassed of what I wasn't producing, especially for how much I felt like I was spinning my wheels. And then the conversation that you had after, where I reached back out and said, hey, I feel so uncomfortable and I don't really like that I shared that information with you, which also is crazy because you're my best friend and you know a lot about my life. And you kind of were, I don't know if baffled is the word, but you were like, okay, well, what I heard you say was, I don't know what you remember saying, but what I heard you say was that you get about 12 hours of work in and you make X amount of money.
Week. Right.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Not a day, a week,
a
week.
Got it. Yeah. Once upon a time.
Right.
But you're working about 12 hours actually, which I think also I felt insulted by because, God, I felt like I was still working so much. But I think then when I sat with it, money produced, hours worked, both of us were like, wow, that feels
amazing,
productive.
Right. And
it's reframing. And I think often we go through the motions, but we don't reframe mindset.
Right.
And a lot of my worth, because I started working at 12 and I had a house cleaning business at 14 and I made a decent amount of money for a poor kid and more or less. And I felt accomplished in all of those things. And I had worked so hard, but work became my worth so young. And I feel like internally in my hub, I had a lot of accolades just from people that I knew and loved, a lot of praise for my work ethic and what I earned. And so I think reframing in motherhood, I never addressed it. I just kind of swept it under the rug. And then I think when you ask those questions, 5 years into me being a mother, I felt really surprised. And then the way that you reworded it made me feel, I think it made me feel not settled, but like, okay, this is worthwhile. It still is worthwhile. Yeah. And it's good to keep myself going while I'm figuring out parenting and enjoying these young years.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, I didn't realize I offended you or made you
pause,
so I'm really sorry.
No, I don't think I felt offended. I think I felt like, I just felt so, I'm not great at being vulnerable. Yeah. I just felt so vulnerable. And then I felt like, usually I process so much by myself internally that by the time I'm saying it out loud, I have a whole system. Right. And so I think saying it out loud on the spot, I was like, oh my God, there's no recourse. Like I just really,
I can't take those words back, please.
It felt like that. I really didn't feel offended. I just felt like, whoa. Yeah. I just said I just gave you asked and I answered and I didn't think about it until after we hung up and then I really thought about it.
Yeah. And I think when we're already feeling like we have these different expectations on what our life looks like, we're in this shame a little bit of like, I should be further along or I should be making more money or I should be working more. And that must have just triggered that, right? And our emotional response is to go, oh, that doesn't feel safe. Like, let's run away from that conversation.
Totally.
But I love the way that we were able to reframe that was like, okay, if you take the hours, like I think as entrepreneurs too, it's so hard because when we own our own business, we're constantly working in our heads. So whether we're actually getting productive work done, that's that cycle of to-do list is spinning 24/7. And so it feels like we're doing way more work. And then I think if we sit down and actually evaluate, like, how many hours did I actually work? And then how much money am I making? And then you do that math and you're like, that's pretty fucking amazing, right?
Well, I think that's what surprised me so much was that in my mind, which that probably is what it is that in my mind I'm thinking about it all the time.
Right.
And so when you asked me I mapped out my days and you broke down the hours, I think oh God, is that all I'm actually spending working?
Right.
No wonder I'm not making more money.
Right.
And also, okay, but that's where I got stuck, which is why I felt like I had to call back and say, I'm kind of reeling. Like, I just said a lot and you said a lot and I'm feeling, which I can do. That's my own mental cycle as I latch to something and then that's when I spin. But I do think that that's why it's important to have somebody in your life that can catch you off guard and ask you a hard question, or a question that doesn't feel like it wasn't meant to be hard.
Right.
And then help you reframe, reprogram, get different insight. Because as you and I always say, I could market your business in 8.5 seconds. I can sit on mine for 6 months and go like, I don't know what the hell I do. How would I ever expose my company to people?
Right.
Do people do that?
People can't know about my business because then I'd have to actually do the work.
How do we do that? So it's always easy to explain it to someone else, when it's inside, which you give a lot of clarity to those kinds of things, mapping things out and kind of like, why are you doing that?
Right. Hey there, quick question. Are you marketing your business or just posting and hoping? At Founders University, we're cutting through the noise with a masterclass made for female entrepreneurs who are ready to stand out and scale up. This isn't about trends or copying what everyone else is doing. It's about unlocking your voice, creating a message that connects, and finally showing up like the brand you actually are. You'll walk away with clarity, confidence, and a strategy that you can use right now, not 6 months from now. Whether you're tired of guessing or just ready to grow, this class is your next step. Join us at Founders University for a marketing class that actually moves the needle. Save your seat at foundress.co/university. Let's make your message unmissable. Okay, so you spoke about marketing, which ties into my next question, and that is what you do for a living. You help businesses, you create amazing social presence for businesses, you do photography. She kind of does everything. But you shifted a lot in your career too. You started as a family photographer. She's taken all of our family photos. They're my favorite memories. And then you kind of switched into the brand space, into headshots and kind of more professional photos. And then recently you started also adding that marketing piece. So you help people kind of really get their true brand voice out in the world in a really polished and beautiful way, which I love. So tell me a little bit about that kind of transition and what took you from that maybe like family photographer that felt like, I don't know. I remember in the past where you were kind of just like, I don't really do this as a job. I just love it. And you kind of almost like didn't really claim it as a business. And then I remember just watching the evolution of you were like, oh no, I'm actually fucking good at this. And you got busy. And then you're like, I actually really love this. And you shifted. And I remember there was some disappointment with like clients because people like me that were like, wait, hold on, who's going to take my family photos now, right? You're like, no, I'm doing this. Yeah. So talk about that shift.
Well, I worked at a marketing firm for 4 years. I really loved it. I was the executive assistant to the owner, and she really took me under her wing and taught me a lot of things, and I was so fascinated by it. It was internet marketing. It was search engine optimization. I had all this big fancy language before, everybody knew all this terminology. And I actually really, really loved it. And had I not had my own life circumstances take place and create a stirring in me to move out of Arizona, I probably would have worked for her until she sold the company. I really loved the marketing. But while I was there, I started taking photos truly because I didn't go to college and all my friends were graduating, and I wanted to document kind of the last hurrah. I felt like after this, everybody's going to leave and go to their own spot in the world. And this core group we've had for 10 years isn't going to exist anymore. So I went and bought a nice camera, and it was at the time when everybody didn't have a nice camera. So I got a lot of, can you come take our family photos? So that's kind of how it started, and I really loved it. It was nights and weekends. I worked my normal 40-hour week job, and then I would do nights and weekends and take photos. And I remember one person said, you should really be charging to do this. And I said, no, I'm good. Like, I just want it to be a hobby. I don't want it to be monetized. I really love it. I have to have creative outlet. This is a good outlet for me. Oh, he totally disagreed. I remember he came into my office and sat down and was like, looked at me, this is what you have to do.
This is serious.
I was like, no, I really don't want to. Well, then I decided to move out of state. And then I said, you know what? I'm not going to be working for a company anyway. I'm going to live out of state. I don't want to go through the interview process. I'll just give this thing a go. And so I had a brand created, and I started Facebook, literally blew my company up. I tripled.
That was the good old days of Facebook.
Oh, it was so good. Pre-algorithm. I doubled my books every year for the first 3 years until I moved out of that state. Moving is tough on a business, just in case you didn't know. And then I went to New York and photographed weddings, and we were doing 52 weddings a year, and it was a lot. And when I came back, that was kind of what started to soil my love of private portraiture. Then I had kids, and I realized my husband and I, which that was my grand plan, was, when I get married and I have kids, this will be perfect because it's nights and weekends. So my husband, if he works a normal job, he'll be at work and I'll be with the kids, and then we'll switch. Yeah. Well, in real time, that looks like husband and wife become ships in the night. And that's devastating to a relationship. So I thought that something needs to shift. So that's when I actually made the pivot. I was burnt out on private portraiture. I didn't like it. I was going through some hard stuff in my personal life. I felt like I couldn't show up and be my best self to really get like happy energy out of people. And I remember there was this one beautiful family, and they showed up to my house. We live on 20 acres, golden light, tall grass. It's a scene, okay? They show up there in beautiful outfits, perfectly curated. I peel myself off the couch, having forgotten that they were even coming. We were all watching a movie, like snuggled up, and so I get up, I take their photos, and halfway through I just thought, I'm not even doing this family justice. Yeah. I'm robbing them, and they're paying me a lot of money. Right. And I just said, I'm all done. I need to make something work different. So that's when I switched, and that's when I finally niched down, which I was like 12 years into my career of like, and I had heard niche down 1,000 times, but I could not make it work.
What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I'm like, I love it all though. My niche is photography. Yeah. That's my niche. Right. And then I think once I made that shift to just doing commercial photography, I was like, oh, I totally get it now. Yeah. I feel like things started soaring and clicking. It was like back to pre-algorithm Facebook. It was like, it just started making, because it made sense to everybody. And,
and you were in alignment.
Yeah.
And you felt good.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. And I think it made sense to other people what I was offering. It made sense to me what I was offering. All of a sudden, all the content made sense. The structure made sense. The timing made sense. Everything settled into place. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And then you watched idiots like me try to take those photos and put them on social media. And you're like, what are you doing? This is not right.
That's a little harsh.
But yes.
But I mean, I am very honest. I think that I realized how difficult it was for people to market themselves online. And I was doing it very quickly. And people were asking, how are you? So what app are you using to do that? And I'm like, I just give creative direction to this person that I have that's working for me. And suddenly it was like everything started clicking together. This is something people need help with. They're literally spending an hour making a reel, which is pure insanity.
Guilty.
Truth. Like this could be done in 7 minutes. And I missed the marketing so much. I think I was doing it, I know I was doing it anyway on shoots. I would take photos and then, leave them with a short list of suggestions as to how they could best utilize them. Yeah. And it made perfect sense, because then if I'm offering the marketing, I can just help them actually really get their dollars worth from the photo. I mean, it's not inexpensive. It's an investment of time, resources, and energy. And it felt like I would never see, there are clients I didn't ever see the photos from. And I'm thinking like, I know how much you spent on those. You should be using them.
Pull them out of the file.
Yes. Before you dye your hair or change your vibe or shift, like utilize those images.
Right.
So let me show you how. And then my husband was joking the other day, you're really going to work yourself into a job, which I have to laugh because we're 18 years deep at this point in my career. And somehow it's still evolving and changing and adding and making more sense all the time,
Yeah, that alignment piece is so true. And I can see it. You light up too when you are in that moment of alignment. And like I've watched you in all the seasons. We've been friends for a very, very long time, and part of each other's lives in such a deep way. And so I've watched that, and I just see you light up when you know that you can help a brand really transform their image and take their true self. Because a lot of times, like as entrepreneurs, we have no idea what the hell we're doing when it comes to marketing. We didn't have a marketing background and then started a business. It's like we had a passion, or we saw something that there was a hole in the market, created a business, and then we're like, hello, where are you? How do I tell people about this business?
I think that so much of the issue with social media is that because it's free, we think that we should just handle it. Yeah. And the fact is that if your brain is made to make pottery, you probably shouldn't be doing your marketing.
Right.
And that's over 1,000 different things. If you're made to run an organization that's gathering women, you're probably really great at communicating. Right. However, that doesn't mean that your brain is geared for marketing.
Right.
Can you have a good idea? 100%. But it's different in the way that you're building and applying. Right. And I think that's the part that we miss as entrepreneurs. Our generation of entrepreneurs is we're gritty and we can do it all ourselves. And we forget that delegation and hiring is really, really invaluable.
Right.
Like in order for us to stay in our strength, we have to be able to delegate.
Oh, it's so important. It's so true. I think if we can figure out the structure of our business to stay in our zone of genius, that's where the magic happens, right? That's where it does. It's all alignment, and then things do start falling into place, and that's where you do get to make your magic, which I love. You've done the work, you've built the business, led the team, carried the vision, but somewhere along the way, it started to feel heavy. You're not burned out, you're just misaligned. The Aligned Power Retreat is your invitation to step away from the noise and reconnect with your vision, your values, your voice. This isn't about hustle, it's about clarity. It's about remembering who you are when you're not constantly pouring out for everyone else. Join us in Paradise Valley, Arizona for 3 days of deep work, realignment, and transformative community with other women who get it. If you're ready to move from chaos to clarity, from pressure to purpose, from autopilot to aligned power, this is your moment. You can register at www.azsoulretreats.com/aligned-power-retreat. I'd love to see you there. Okay, so my last question for you is, I have one more. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to sneak one more in. Okay. So with the marketing, what is one thing that you wish everyone would know about marketing and social media? And what is one thing that you wish would go away forever?
Oh, wow. Those are great questions. I think that marketing is bigger than one thing. And I think that having your eye on the whole picture is really important. I think that you can tackle it bit by bit. But I do think having a larger plan that's zoomed out is imperative to the success of a marketing plan. And it can be, you can trace some of it, but not all of it. And I think that things like community relations, which falls kind of into PR, is invaluable and it's not traceable, but it's so important to pair with something that is very visual,
right,
like social media, where you can really see numbers and get into the gritty of it to a degree.
Yeah.
So I think it's zooming out, having a bigger plan, not just focusing on one thing, and understanding that it all plays together over time. Right. It's a patience game.
Oh, I hate that.
I know.
We want instant results right now.
We're programmed. I mean, we've been programmed for that.
Oh, yeah. Social media has ruined us in that way also.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Okay, so what's one thing you wish would go away completely in marketing that you see like other people doing, you just kind of cringe? Or what's the new word we just learned today from the millennial? The non-millennial.
It's called chuggy.
Chuggy. We're learning so many things from our young
I have
fellow friends.
I make sure to surround myself with Gen Zs so that I, am staying
relevant.
Something that I wish would go away. I think that the notion, I wish I could remove the trends off of things like social media. I think social media is very powerful. I actually don't mind the algorithm to degrees. However, I think when people jump onto trends because that's what they know the algorithm will like, it deteriorates from the truth of their brand and it takes away from their authenticity. And I think that's where I really struggle. And people sometimes, I'll say that to people, business owners, and I don't do that, or I only do that sometimes. But every time you do it, I think it takes away from the authenticity of what a person's trying to build.
Right.
And I think that feels chuggy.
New word.
That's going to be chuggy by the time this comes out.
Totally. It's going to be so outdated. But we're working on it. We're working on updating our vocabulary. Okay. Can you tell me, because obviously I love community and I love doing things together. You've watched me my whole life build community around different businesses. And when Foundress started, I really felt my soul come alive and felt so much alignment in my life of like, this is what I was meant to do. So I love bringing that community aspect back to these conversations. So what is an area in your life where you felt like community was such an imperative thing that got you through something or supported you in a certain aspect of life, or just that you feel like you would never do this again without that support?
God, that's a really good question. I think that for me, as a true extrovert, Enneagram 7, all the other things that would fall in line with those two stereotypes, I think community is so vital. I mean, I'm somebody that could always have someone around, and I'm happy to eat lunch alone, but I need someone around. I like to have someone around. Community, I just can't imagine a world without it. And I think that maybe it's not a direct answer to your question, but if there's something I could give someone, it is another person. I think that it's the gift of life is relationship and connectivity. And I mean, I was riding on the plane this morning and I was thinking, my whole career is around storytelling because I want to connect one person to the next, and I want one business to be connected to the other business, and I want this person's story to be told. And I think that the whole of my life without community is really sad and lonely. So I can't necessarily isolate. I could, but that's another podcast. But I think that all of it's so important. And I think for some people it comes really naturally. And I think for other people, they really have to work at it, and it's worth it. No matter how uncomfortable it is in the beginning. I think you show up. I remember when I moved back, here we go. I remember when I
found it.
Came. When I moved back to Colorado Springs from New York, I remember when I lived there the first time, I had such a hard time making any friends, and I felt inconsistent. And I knew a lot of people because my relatives were there and my boyfriend lived there, and I had met a lot of people, but true connection was not something I experienced, which was one of the reasons I was dreading going back. And I moved into this cute apartment, and there was a coffee shop that had opened, and I told myself, I'm going to go to that coffee shop every single day. And I'm going to spend $3.75 on a latte every single day.
That seems so cheap now.
I know. I'm like, wow, what a deal. I'm going to spend $3.75 every single day plus my $1 tip until I know somebody. And I went, and I remember, I went for months and months and months, to the point where it just became a normal. It wasn't necessarily reasoned around that, but that's why I started it. And I remember the barista was so sweet, and he said, Karen, I know this person. I think that you would be such good friends. I'm going to introduce you. And it got the ball rolling, and it was consistency in an uncomfortable place that then created connection, which then led to really deep friendship, which allowed my world to explode in Colorado Springs. And I think that pattern is really important, and it can be uncomfortable for anybody, but it's imperative to the vitality of life.
Yeah. Show up and being consistent.
Even when it feels just really undesirable.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard and uncomfortable.
And people would be like, why do you go every single day? And I'd be like, I'm on a mission. I have a plan here.
Right. And it's in the budget because you're supporting small businesses and encouraging the economy.
Let me be clear. It was not in the budget, but it was well worth it.
We don't budget anymore. You've already built something real. You're no longer trying to figure out if it works. You're focused on what's next. The League is Foundress's premier membership for female entrepreneurs who are scaling with intention and ready to lead from clarity, not chaos. This isn't entry level. Inside the League, you'll find curated cohorts, high-level strategy, and the kind of support that goes deeper than "you've got this." We're talking real conversations and a circle of women who aren't just building, they're building with vision. Because the next version of your business demands a new level of alignment, leadership, and community. If you're done piecing it all together alone, the League is where you land. Apply now. Doors are only open for a short time, so don't wait. foundress.co/the-league-membership, where clarity meets connection and your growth gets personal. I ruined her budget in college.
Thank you.
She had a nice hefty savings account, and then I taught her how to shop.
She was like, do you know what Uggs are? And I'm like, what's an Ugg?
We just dated ourselves. Now everyone knows how old we are. We're in college talking about Uggs.
Everybody knows how old we are.
Okay, so how can we find you? What's the best way if someone wants to work with you?
On social media.
Yes, clearly.
Also, I mean, I prefer my website. It's much prettier than social media. Those are probably the two best ways.
Okay.
I would say.
Tell us what they are.
Should I say www. just to really get in my old marketing days? TheElanStudio.com.
ELAN.
Mm-hmm. Not Musk. More like spirit of enthusiasm. And Instagram is the Elan Studio also.
Awesome.
The
Thank
E's
you.
do butt up to each other. It's TheEla.
Two E's.
Studio.
Okay. I will also put it in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This is actually the very first podcast I've recorded. So this is kind of special and clunky and awesome. And I love you so much.
I love you.
Thanks for being my guinea pig.
Of course. That's what I'm here for.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If this spoke to you, share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. You've got this. Stay clear, stay grounded, and stay true to what you're building. Until next time, tits up.